The HOA is the hero this time, so my neighbor Greg decided to turn his front yard into what he called an art installation. This dude literally placed a rusty toilet, 3 mannequins dressed like zombies, and a giant inflatable flamingo right where everyone could see it from the street. He thought he was being edgy and creative, but it looked like a yard sale threw up on his lawn. The rest of us were not having it. My house is right next door, and every morning I'd wake up to tourists taking selfies with the zombie mannequins. Kids would walk by on their way to school and get scared by the creepy setup. One mom even complained that her 5-year-old was having nightmares about the scary people in Greg's yard. I tried talking to Greg about it nicely at first. I knocked on his door one Saturday morning with coffee and said, "Hey, maybe we could compromise on the display." He just laughed and told me I didn't understand art. He said his installation was making a statement about suburban conformity and that I was too basic to get it. That's when I remembered we had an HOA. I'd always thought HOAs were the worst, always sending letters about grass height and mailbox colors. But Greg had pushed me to my limit. I dug out my HOA paperwork and found the rules about front yard displays and decorations. Turns out there were very specific guidelines about what you could put in your yard. No non-functional fixtures, no displays visible from the street that weren't traditional landscaping, and definitely no mannequins or toilets. The rules were actually pretty detailed about maintaining the neighborhood's appearance. I called the HOA president, this older lady named Janet who lived 3 streets over. She'd been dealing with HOA stuff for like 15 years and took it seriously. When I described Greg's art installation, she got quiet for a second and then said she'd be right over to take photos. Janet showed up 20 minutes later with a clipboard and a digital camera. She walked around Greg's yard taking pictures from every angle, documenting each piece of his installation. The toilet got special attention because apparently having non-functional plumbing fixtures visible from the street violated multiple HOA rules. 3 days later, Greg got a certified letter from the HOA. The letter gave him exactly 72 hours to remove all non-compliant items from his front yard or face daily fines of $50. It also mentioned that if he didn't comply, the HOA could hire a removal service and bill him for the costs. Greg was furious. He came storming over to my house that evening, waving the letter around and accusing me of ruining his artistic vision. He said I was a petty neighbor who couldn't appreciate creativity. I just shrugged and told him maybe he should have read the HOA rules before moving into a planned community. The 72-hour deadline came and went. Greg's art installation was still there Tuesday morning when I left for work. By the time I got home that evening, there was a removal truck in his driveway and 3 guys loading the toilet and mannequins into the back. Greg was standing on his porch looking defeated, holding the giant inflatable flamingo like it was his last possession. One of the removal guys handed him a bill for $250 for the service call. The look on Greg's face was priceless. The best part was what happened next. Janet from the HOA stopped by the following weekend to check that everything had been properly removed. She ended up chatting with me and my other neighbors about how we'd been dealing with Greg's installation for months. Turns out half the neighborhood had been complaining to their spouses about it, but nobody wanted to be the one to make a fuss. Now, Greg keeps his yard normal with just regular grass and some basic shrubs.